All right, and good morning, afternoon, and evening, Danvers. This is Jim Morose, and this is our December 2020 show, which is actually our Christmas show. So, Merry Christmas to everyone. You know, this is Jim's Table Topics. I'm your host, Jim Morose, and it's been a crazy year. 2020 has been a crazy year, but now we have Thanksgiving last month, and we're in the Christmas Advent season, and all the holidays that get celebrated. So at the end of the year and into New Year's. So, and we do need to look, it's always a good time to pause. I mean, we have to. I guess they're forcing us to be quarantined, and there's all sorts of things going on in the world that will need to be readdressed eventually. But for today, I'm focusing on Christmas, and the reason for the season is the good news about Jesus. So that's what I'm focusing on today. In fact, I mean, the same format of the show. I'm going to talk about the good news first, which the good news is Christmas. So I actually extended that. It's almost going to be, 30 minutes of good news. And then we'll just quickly go into some of the fake news and the stupidity that plagues this country and airwaves and everything else. I mean, even on this local station, I've noticed not only do they have all these syndicated and broadcasts from not Danvers residents, because the local access, this should be, Danvers citizens local access, and some of these things are being, co produced by Danvers residents, and it's all about global human rights and fake news. It's just the same stuff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that we hear. It's just the same, fake news, just repackaged and they repeat it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, redundantly repeat repetitively the same stuff over and over again. And so it becomes the truth when it's in fact so far from the truth it's pathetic. But again, that's why we need to focus on the good news. So it is Christmas, and I should have had a Christmas hat, some Christmas colors, whatever. It is Christmas is Christmas, and it's a great season that I enjoy a lot because it's time for family and some reflection on last year and the current year in the year to come. So Lord knows what the New Year's celebrations will look like with all the new laws. They keep changing. And I know that you probably don't hear too much about the fact that you wonder where the Chamber of Commerce is, but a lot of the small business owners are up in arms with all these changing rules and regulations because they can't get any traction in their business. They can open up 25, 30%. Now they're going down. So they're really upset, and the fact that the people that are given these orders don't obey them. All the governors and everything else just kind of blatantly overlook the rules because they're special. But again, that's what is being portrayed or not. What you're not hearing is what like Jeffrey Epstein. I like to use him as an example. That's correct. People knew about him for 5-10 years before he finally had someone kill himself. because that's how the fake news works. They hide it, and then all of a sudden it's out, it's gone, it's over, move on. So without any further ado, those are my opening remarks, and we're going to get into the good news. Okay, so, and it is Christmas, so this is, for unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. That's in Luke chapter 2, verse 11. And we're getting into the good news. I should have had that up all the time. And again, Christmas it's all about, for me, the nativity scene and the birth of Jesus and all the events that happened. So with that, actually this year they say that the planets are aligning to make this star, in the sky now, but you really can't see it because of all the light pollution. I have a slide later that shows you the light pollution, but this is what brought the Magi from the east. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to read the two biblical accounts of the nativity and the birth of Jesus, and as it was from Luke chapter 2, verses 2 through 21. So I'm just going to go right into this now. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judah, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths, lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with an angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in highest heaven, and on earth peace to those whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told to them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise the child, he was named Jesus, in the name the angel had given him before he was conceived. So that's the Luke's account of the birth, and then we'll get into Matthew's account in a minute. But again, like I said, I kind of like the whole concept of and there is like I said, the light pollution. I mean, you can see that in the Middle East here, there's back in the day when Jesus was born, there was no light pollution. It was all dark, because this is all electricity and street lights and all the light pollution. And when you have light pollution, you can't see the stars as good. So that's why, when you go out into some of these remote areas where there's snow, they say a good place to go is out in the ocean because it's very dark and you can really see the stars in their full glory and glowing. But light pollution, diminishes the sight of the heavenly stars, and so again, we're at the stable. Jesus is born, and it is, to me, it's all about Jesus and the season. Jesus is the Well, these pictures sometimes they come out small. Jesus is at the heart of every Christmas. And yeah, it's got the little, the star. And there's, so many different versions of the manger scene and the shepherds in the fields and the angels talking to the shepherds coming down and the magi. And so that's a good point here. We'll go to the second reading, which will be the Matthew's version. And Matthew is focusing on the Magi visit the Messiah. Okay. And so again, this is Matthew chapter 2, verses 2 through 19. It's kind of funny how they're the same chapters, almost the same verses. But at any rate, here we go. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, and they asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people of Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go, search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way. And the star that they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was born. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When Jesus had gone, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I shall call thy son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. He gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time that he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more." The return to Nazareth. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are now dead." And so there's so many, when you read the actual biblical account and all the things that happened that don't get talked about too much unless you go to church and you're in tune and you read your Bible and focus in on these things. You miss that, even though Jesus was born, it was a bloody mess because Herod, the corrupt political leaders, go figure, was so jealous that, this king he's born king of the Jews. Hey, I'm the king, and no, this is my job. I'm keeping it. So any threats, King Herod was kind of, off the wall. I believe he even killed a son or two because he was at, power lust for power. He had a lust for power, and everyone, once they're in control, they don't want to leave. Oh, sounds so familiar. But the good news is, the story is about Jesus and the story of life and how it was prophesied that the Messiah would come, and he was born to die. He was born to die. And part of this Christmas, season is the Advent, and each candle, there's 5 candles, for the 4 weeks of Advent, and then the 5th one is the Christ candle, which is lit on Christmas Day. So every Sunday for the 4 weeks before Christmas, a candle is lit. When we were kids, and when our kids were growing up, we used to, have the Advent wreath and say prayers and talk about what each candle represented for the week, and we talked about that. And the same thing, the Advent candles, there's all sorts of different versions, and I didn't even know. Yeah, so Advent, it's all about preparing your heart and your mind for Christ. Again, they when it's interesting. Herod said that anyone 2 years or under, because it was 2 years had passed. Lord knows how many. People think that Jesus was a baby in a manger, but he could have been a year or so old. Things happened very slowly back then. But back then is then, the representation of what it was like back then. They were actually in a cave on a farm. The innkeeper, he had an inn, but behind them, they all had their own livestock and farms and whatever they did. And so they were basically in the barn. They were born at the manger scene. It's in the barn. But in a cave back then. So, but today it's all pomp and circumstance. No one can outdo Disney with the pomp and circumstance of light and the grandeur of the. And I just went through just to look at all the ways people can light up and look at Christmas. The malls hustling, bustling, lights, people's houses, and big attractions where throngs come to look at the lights and get together. I don't think we'll be doing much of this anymore, at least this year. I think there's no masks, there's no social distancing. This is a Christmas past. Our Christmas this year will be apparently a little different, by mandate, of course. But so again, people, whether they believe in Jesus or not, love Christmas just because of the spirit. It's the most wonderful time of the year. They have Christmas carols and Christmas songs. With a song in your heart, everything is great. And with God, especially if it's, I focus on God and his songs, and you can't help but be joyous. The world's maybe going crazy, but with God, it's all in perspective. Nothing is new under the sun. Same old stuff. Corrupt leaders have been around for years. I got a stack of books here that just historically prove how stupid the human race is and how we have, fallen to all the stupidity of evil men. But Christmas is a good time to reflect on what's going on. We family and friends and the seasons, and Christmas scenes are beautiful. The snow, it's just the grandeur of God. So the web, the Facebook, and all these, they have they have a lot of good things, but a lot of bad things. So you have to know what you're looking for. So all these pictures I just got off the web, Googled Christmas and scenes. This was an interesting one. Are you part of the in crowd, or are you one of the stable few? So take it for what it's worth. Stable or part of the in crowd, the beautiful people that don't have to follow the rules. They just give them. And again, the dichotomy of our lives, it's always is always in front of us. Are we celebrating the spiritual side of Christmas or the material side of Christmas? The birth of Jesus or the pomp of the Christmas tree and presents? And again, it's just an interesting, I like the winter scenes. It's beautiful. That's why we live up in New England, right? Because the scene, the weather, we love to change the seasons. Hot summers, cold winters. It's almost time to hibernate, folks. Okay, and then this, I mean, some of these pictures come out really small like this. I don't know. It was just, again, the grandeur of God, but we have Santa in his sled and the Christmas tree. It's just Christmas. And again, we have all this nostalgia about how Christmas was back in the, what it was, the late 1800s, early 1900s, and just the outfits, the community, and just getting together. And of course, and everyone, it's like Wally World, the Christmas vacation there with Chevy Chase, everyone's got to have more lights, better lights. Now they just got those spotlights, which I have one, and I just put it on my house, and there's a million lights with one, but flip of the switch, and you don't have to go out there and nail them all up. And these are, the old town celebrations. People used to get together. The lighting of the tree. Yeah, now it's in what is it, Rockefeller Center? But every town has the get together, lighting the tree ceremony. Here's Danvers. This is back in the 50s. I got this off the Danvers Facebook page. So back in the old days where CVS is Woolworths, and there used to be the First National stores. The bank is still there, and there's a few buildings over here that are, that one burnt down, these are gone, but that's where Brothers is, and the barber shop there. Route 35 to Topsfield and Georgetown. And this is Danvers Square. The tree is in the middle, and we got a nice 57 Chevy. This is, again, lots of history in our Christmas celebrations. Yes. And I suppose I should have got some, with all the Danvers residents here. But we've got them all. And again, the dichotomy of the Christmas tree and Jesus was born to die on the cross, and that's just the story of the season. More people, lights, just getting together, enjoying Christmas, and the Christmas carols. Again, it's the music and the throngs of crowds of Christmas that are just so enjoyable. I just like it. And again, these are the big cathedrals, big churches that celebrate Christmas and focus on the pomp and circumstance and the fact that it is Jesus' birthday. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men. That's not exactly how it was written in the Bible, but there's so many different versions. But, we need a little more goodwill, I believe. That's part of the Christmas spirit. Part of the Christmas spirit. Again, more nostalgia of Christmas, stockings hung by the chimney with care, and hope that St. Nicholas would soon be there. Yeah. And again, a little Advent wreath, Christmas tree, and reading the night before Christmas all through the house. But who's the Grinch has stolen Christmas? I actually have never seen this movie. I just heard seen bits and pieces. But the Grinch who stole Christmas, Whoville, and all the other stuff. There's always a bah humbug. I mean, even the Christmas Carol, the book written by Charles Dickens. Christmas is a good time to do a little soul searching and see what's going on, and reevaluate the life. So, what is the Christmas meals, Thanksgiving meals, just family meals? It's just the candles, Advent, food, and the angelic host of angels that to try to help us. We're going to listen. I mean, the Magi were told by the angels to, hey, don't go back to see Herod because he's just, he's a bad man. Go another route, and they did. And same with Joseph. The angel told him, they're going to come and kill Jesus. You got to go. Get up and go to the bunker in Egypt. And so I think they stayed there for a good 7, 8, 10 years. I mean, there's really nothing between the birth of Jesus and the next mention of him, other than the fact that they went to Egypt and came back, and there's no real time reference. When he got lost in the temple when he was about 13 or 14 years old. And then not again until he was baptized by John the Baptist in the River Jordan. So, but he was only on the public stage for 3 years. That's all the truth the world could take. 3 years, kill him. Let's move on, people. We can't have this kind of stuff going on. So that's what they did, and it's that's just how it is, And that's what happened. And there's the angelic host again, making the announcement to the shepherds. I mean, we all do get kind of caught up in all these fancy Christian words like holy, holy, holy. But holy only really means separate. So, you know what I mean? We're supposed to be separate. We're not supposed to be part of the world. We're supposed to be part of God's, embassy of God's spiritual kingdom, not part of this crazy world who focuses on, power, money, and things, material things. Well, as Madonna said, we're living in the material world. But again, all goes back, with a song in your heart, it's good. The Christmas carols, the great uplifting music, it's good stuff. And I think the glory of Christmas, here's a bunch of elves. It must have been an elf convention. We've got the angels and elves. This is just I just saw this last funny. Then they have your special focus Christmases. Everyone has their hobbies. So this, you can find all different kind of venues. But Christmas carols, Christmas trees, and Christmas begins with Christ. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. And that's where we want to be. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. Okay, people, that's the end of the good news on the show. I just want to say Merry Christmas. God loves you. Enjoy the season. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, go into the fake news. I got a video here of Dave Rubin talking about tolerance, and it's kind of just the same thing, only different. But it's just one of those Prager University videos. So without any further ado, let's dive into the fake news. Here we go. David, to the tape. Thanks.
Tolerance. It's a word we hear a lot these days, so let's define it. Tolerance is the ability to live with people whose opinions and behavior you don't agree with. That's essentially how Oxford defines it, how Merriam-Webster defines it, and how we as a society have always defined it. You might be for the death penalty and your cousin might be against it. You might be against a $15 minimum wage and your coworker might be for it. Your dad might have voted for Trump, your mom might have voted for Clinton, and your brother may not have voted at all. Whatever differences we have, tolerating others' opinions is a prerequisite to a functioning and free society. America itself was built on a foundation of tolerance. The Declaration of Independence guarantees us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there's an implicit contract there. To have your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness, you have to be tolerant of somebody else's life, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. This contract, though, seems to be breaking down. If you listen to the mainstream media, only one side is living up to this deal, the left. The right, according to the media, is intolerant of everyone, except those darned white heterosexual Christian males. There's only one problem. It's just not true. Incredibly, the left isn't even tolerant of the very people they say they're tolerant of. If you're gay or black or an immigrant and you're not in lockstep with current leftist orthodoxy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you believe we should judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, the left calls you racist. If you believe that America is a nation of immigrants, but that our country should also protect its borders, the left calls you a xenophobe. If you believe that men and women are equal but fundamentally different, the left calls you sexist. Here's the thing, those who only tolerate people they agree with or like aren't actually tolerant. So who is tolerant? Is it the organizers of the Women's March who had to apologize for the hurt and confusion they caused when they invited a man, leftist icon Bernie Sanders, to speak at their convention? Is it the Antifa thugs who caused UC Berkeley to spend $600,000 on security when mainstream conservative Ben Shapiro showed up to give a talk? Or is it Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters who scolded Kanye West for talking out of turn when he dared suggest that blacks should think for themselves? These aren't isolated examples. I'm guessing that you, person watching this right now, have silenced yourself because you don't want to suffer the wrath of the outrage mob. So let me ask the question again. Who is tolerant? Well, here's the surprise. It's actually those scary right-wingers that the media and the universities demonize every day. I speak from personal experience. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment here, but I still consider myself a liberal. And it's my duty as a liberal to say what I think. I would rather stand for what I believe and be hated than bow down and be loved. The left, sadly, has become utterly intolerant of anyone with whom they disagree. Why? Because they believe that they know how you should live and how you should think. Any deviation, any nonconformity is dangerous to that goal. Believe it or not, the right these days actually welcomes diversity of thought. I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it out for yourself. Go talk to some. They do exist, and they do things like watch movies, travel, and eat ethnic food. You know, regular people things. You know what I found out? The right, much more than the left, believes in the notion of live and let live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true definition of tolerance. I'm Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report for Prager University.
Okay, and welcome back. So look at folks, we got, Dave Rubin, I mean, that's the same stuff we hear. It's they take words and they tolerance and we're going to be nice to everybody. Oh, except for conservatives and Christians and whatever they browbeat daily in the paper, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know. You be the judge. But again, I don't know where you get your news. But I do know that there are certain people that just, in the news media, they're elegant at lying. They're not really reporters. Actually, in England, there was a documentary done in the 90s, and they don't call them reporters anymore. Even in the 90s, they're called news readers. They call news readers because do you think these anchors and all these talking heads research all this stuff like they did in the old days? No. They're given a teleprompter, just like I read the biblical verses. I'm just reading them. What's there? Just reporting. And so they just get a script and they better read it and read it like they mean it. That's what fake news is all about. They just get it and they read it. During the documentary, it was kind of funny. Where, I remember this because it's back in the 90s, but it was, there are things that once you see, you can't unsee. And they were talking to the British news reader. She's a woman, and she said, "Yes, I was practicing my lines, and there was a plane crash, and several people died. It's going to be great for the ratings." Oh, it's all about ratings and money and fame and fortune. The news means nothing to them. The people died, and it's like it's more about ratings and keeping their jobs and reading that stuff. Now it's getting to be worse. But again, the fake news and the tolerance level is beyond the pale, folks. I mean, we can't keep up this kind of stupidity. We have to stop and think about what's really going on, because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everything that's socialist, democratic is good, and whatever is conservative, Trump, is evil. And it's not even a 80-20. It's not a 70-30 mix. It's 99% one way and 1% the other way, if you can even see it, feel it, or find it, because it's just so blatant. But that's, the brainwashing has been complete. I think I got a slide in here somewhere. Again, the fake news keeps talking about no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. But when Kayleigh McEnany came on, they shut the mic off. They just said, "Oh no, we're not listening to this." They shut her off. There was 2 other lawyers, and they just, no, you didn't get to hear it because they don't want you to hear it because it's not part of the narrative. Sorry, you can't see this. This is not meant for you. You are not allowed to see the truth. So, again, and what is the truth? Yeah. The Fox News kills the microphone, denies viewers the first glimpse at the fraud. They had all the evidence. They laid it all out. I mean, you keep hearing no evidence, no evidence, no evidence, but they laid it out. They laid it out. They laid it out. And again, analyzing the voter fraud. This is the Boston Broadside. It's all laid out. You can see it. Get yourself a Boston Broadside. Go to bostonbroadside.com. Get yourself a subscription. They're giving out the copper coins of Trump and some other things if you what do you do if you get a subscription? But at any rate, you can get them. They're in the post office at the out front of the post office. I thought this was kind of funny. Republicans performed poorly among deceased voters because so many dead people voted. Every dead person voted for Biden. Every person who wasn't registered voted for Biden, and every person who was over the. In other words, there was 2,000 people registered to vote, and 5,000 people voted. Those 3,000 people, they all voted for Joe Biden. But there's no evidence. There's no evidence. It'll all come out tomorrow, because today is December 14th, which is, the day that the Electoral College is supposed to vote. So they're all going to vote and declare conscience. Oh, there's no evidence. We all vote for Joe Biden. Yeah. This guy here, yeah. God, guns, and life. He's pro-God, pro-guns, pro-life, godsgunslife.com. So you can go there. His name is G. Nystrom. I'll never vote Democrat again. Vote for Loeffler and Perdue, and again, this guy, I just happened to see this, and so he's got a little thing here. My name is G. Nystrom, and I'm a little slap happy on my cursor movements. I'm a 6'2", gun-toting, pro-life Republican black man. And guess what? I'm not staying quiet about the injustices the Democrats have done to black families, how they want to send our babies to broken schools, land them in prisons, and promise them free stuff. The Democrats have worked to brainwash black communities into thinking they need government handouts, when in reality, what we need are strong families. I've teamed up with God, Guns, and Life PAC to spread my message to my black brothers and sisters. I want them to wake up and see the truth I learned long ago. The Democrats don't care about them. Earlier this year, we ran billboards in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, and we were getting more than 5,000 views per week. We were turning some heads and helped turn out the minority voters for the Party of Freedom and Progress. Thanks to our effort, President Trump made massive gains among black voters. He got more. In fact, according to one exit poll, he won the largest share of minority votes of any Republican candidate since 1960. But because the fake news doesn't report the truth or the facts or anything, you would never know any of this stuff. You might hear it, but not quite understand. How could Joe Biden have pulled off all these huge numbers of votes in all the black communities when Trump siphoned all those votes off? I don't know. I guess we'll never find out because we'll just never find out. But again, that's where we are, people. That's where we are. Okay. So that was just an interesting thing I saw. And as I was going through, let's see, where am I and why am I here? We keep going. Okay, so now we're going to get into Judge Jeanine. But again, I got a few minutes here before we get into Judge Jeanine. I just can't, highlight that enough, that the fake news misrepresents and hides everything from the people, and they're lying to us. It's not even, I don't even call it fake news anymore. It's propaganda. They're just, it's out and out blatant lying, and they can get away with it, and they're just going to do it. And so we need to re-educate ourselves, and we need to break the mold and get away from the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week news cycle, and focus more on our families and our work lives, our personal lives, and let the politics of destruction land where they need to, up on Beacon Hill down in Washington, D.C., and let them all implode on themselves, because all they do is sit there and fight for power, and they're certainly not doing what's best for the black people, for America, regular America, for all our citizens. We are all suffering because of the leadership of Nancy Pelosi. She just said, no, I'm not going to sign any help bill for anyone with the COVID-19, recovery bill or whatever the heck it was, because I don't want Trump to get the credit for it. So she'd rather have you suffer and everyone in this country suffer because she doesn't want Donald Trump. That's what hate and anger and stupidity looks like, okay? Would the press report that? No, they will not. No, they will not. I'll say it, and then I'll end up, like all the other people, like Chris Christie, who's up there, the rhino of rhinos, the king of the rhinos. Well, denying every truth that comes along because they're afraid of the powers to be. But, okay, let's get into Judge Jeanine, and she's got a few things to say about this whole voter fraud. So without any further ado, Judge Jeanine, David, to the tape.
Now, I believe in the resurrection, but dead people voting? I don't think so. The left boycotted President Trump's inauguration. They marched in Washington in their pussy hats and had a hissy fit for 4 years. So don't you dare ask us to just accept it and move on. And don't you dare tell me I'm being un-American. And don't you dare ask us to go quietly into the night. The most important part of democracy is to do it correctly. The most important question tonight is, did we in 2020? There is no magic in electing a president. Americans do it every 4 years, just as our founding fathers planned. Yet this is a life-changing moment in American history. America will either go one way or the other. And so it not only requires but demands all due diligence be exercised in this highly contested presidential election. There is both an ethical and a legal obligation to the 73 million Americans, the highest number ever, to vote for a sitting president to assure them that every legal vote is counted and not diluted in any way. Wouldn't that be something we'd all want? Our democratic system is the path and the process used to achieve the fundamental right of one man, one vote. There are, however, several steps before this election can be called. The media does not call an election. No one state has yet even certified its vote. Certification, in fact, has not even begun. In fact, the electors do not vote until December 14th. We have one president at a time, and until there are certifications or the electors vote on December 14th, the democratic process must be allowed to play out. but many questions remain. On election night around midnight, President Trump was ahead in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And then one by one, the complaints now, in the form of affidavits and lawsuits, started coming in. Now, an affidavit is a sworn statement. It is signed under the penalty of perjury. It is a factual allegation that is generally part of a complaint seeking relief. People promising that their statement is true and that they are ready to be charged with perjury if they lie. Now, the affidavits are as follows. GOP poll watchers were cursed at and were not allowed in the room. We heard complaints that 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden were switched. Repeated complaints of people not asking for ballots, but receiving many have been sworn to in affidavits. The Secretary of State in Georgia and a Supreme Court judge in Pennsylvania altered the process for handling ballots with absolutely no power to unilaterally change the Constitution. Article 1, Section 4. The Dominion software system has been tagged as one allegedly capable of flipping votes. If you want a free and fair election, there must be a resolution of the issues that so many people are swearing to in affidavits. In the 2000 presidential race, the Democrats took their case and their candidate to the United States Supreme Court. The presidency then wasn't resolved until December 13th of that year, a month from where we are now. In 2016, Hillary may have conceded, but there were recount efforts in Wisconsin and efforts in Pennsylvania and Michigan where Democrats challenged the votes. Certifications were not filed until December 13th, a month from now. Look, folks, under the cover of COVID, rules were changed, providing opportunities for wrongdoers. COVID cannot be used to run herd on our Constitution. COVID is not a prophylactic that prevents us from exercising our constitutional fundamental right to vote. And Joe Biden, well, he had his own view of the opportunity it presented.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
So I ask, why were rules and procedures changed just before the election in Pennsylvania and Georgia because of COVID? There are affidavits and emails that prove that voters in Democrat counties were treated differently than voters in Republican counties. Whether the poll watchers who have a legal right to view were forced out, pushed back as far as 60 feet, or not even allowed in to do what they had a legal right to do. Why would the Democrats want to ban election observers as they count the ballots? Did they not think they could win honestly? Why were there so many unsolicited ballots without verification signatures, ballots without postmarks? Why did a judge in Pennsylvania go outside his power to extend the deadline to receive mail-in ballots after the legislature, the only constitutional body permitted to do so, refused to do so? And why did a Trump-hating Secretary of State in Georgia agree with Stacey Abrams? And there is a lawsuit by Lynn Wood in the United States District Court in Georgia contesting those decisions. Now, I believe in the resurrection, but dead people voting? I don't think so. Like the mother who swore that her dead son was indeed dead, but that he voted twice. And those voting machines created by Dominion, stay tuned. The best is yet to come. Now, the left talks about bringing the country together after they created 4 years of chaos, accusing Trump of sowing doubt in our democracy, saying that his questioning of this election is a danger to America, as if the election process being changed in the middle of an election is no big deal, as if a little fraud is okay. And they lash out on any voting challenge, casting it as a temper tantrum by us. Really? We're the ones having the temper tantrum? The question ultimately is, will any of these allegations affect a sufficient number of votes to change the result of the election? Maybe yes, maybe no. If the answer is President Trump did not win, then on January 20th, Joe Biden will be my president. But until then, President Trump is my president because America has only one president at a time. And in the meantime, please don't tell me that we cannot examine the ballots. Please do not tell me that we cannot pursue these irregularities. That's laughable. The left didn't stop on Election Day in 2016. And with all due respect, the left boycotted President Trump's inauguration. They marched in Washington in their pussy hats and had a hissy fit for 4 years. In fact, the left spied on Trump before he was even president. For 3 years, we heard he was an illegitimate president, that Russia tipped the scales in his favor, that he was a Putin puppet, that he was a fascist. We were spit at, refused service, cursed at, maligned, screamed at, boycotted, and canceled. Businesses were burnt, looted, and destroyed by the left. Chaos, defund the police. President Trump was not given a moment's peace. He was impeached over a legitimate phone call. It was nothing more than a political move. The group that brought us resist, impeach, and burn down cities extorted us with their chaos. Oh no, we will pursue all legal avenues where there are irregularities, anomalies, illegalities, and corruption. And until the certification and the electors vote, that is not a lot to ask. So don't you dare ask us to just accept it and move on. And don't you dare tell me I'm being un-American by questioning what even a Supreme Court justice has put a hold on. And don't you dare ask us to go quietly into the night.
Okay, welcome back. So look at, again, this is, I was judging, you can't make this stuff up. The hypocrisy is so blatant. It's only been a month and a few days since the election, and they're already calling sour grapes and a spoiled, rotten loser, or whatever they call it, sour grape loser, sore loser. No. The Democrats so lost Hillary Clinton for 4 years, and it's still going on. And the evidence is mounting. So, I mean, yeah, this one here, phony bunches of votes. Yeah, eventually it will all come out like, what do you call it? Jeffrey Epstein, 4 or 5 years from now, the truth will come out about all this stuff. And just a reminder, folks, it's just not one thing, it's everything. It's just everything. Just a reminder, the flu has a vaccine that still kills 45 to 65,000 a year. Just educating the panic. Just a little thing popped off the web, jumped out at me. I was on Facebook, and this one was too. This one is a little more interesting, a little more grounded. God has a plan for your life. The enemy, Satan, has a plan for your life. Be ready for both. Just be wise enough to know which one to battle and which one to embrace. It's kind of like the Serenity Prayer in a little different format, but yeah. Good things and bad things and crazy things are going to come your way. You just got to know which one is good, which one is bad, which one when we run into adverse situations, we're either going to come out better or bitter. So all these issues that pop up, are you going to let them eat you alive, or are you going to understand what's really going on and come out better and more stronger? Or are you going to come out fearful and weaker? Yeah, call. There's a preacher that always says something about the stinking thinking. The stinking thinking is just going to drive you crazy. You got to think of positive, not that, positive, lollipops and rainbows and, whatever you call it, pipe dreams. No, you have to focus on reality and know what's right, what's wrong, what's real, and what we can change, what we can't change. The fact that there is a highway to hell and only a stairway to heaven say a lot about the anticipated traffic numbers. Again, take your pick, which way you're going. Okay, I think I might be running out of time. We're into Wally World. Yeah, that was just, I just happened to see that. It's just funny. The Chevy Chase movies, they spend all that time and aggravation to get, sorry, it's closed. And again, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Yep, we are there. And I think, without further ado, I got to go to the tape. So, yeah, David, let's go to next year. I got to stop all this stupidity. We want to focus more on the good news. And I'm going to focus on this clip called Debunked. So there's about a 2-minute clip here of the first one we'll go over. There's a bunch of debunked things on with the Christians. So, David, let's go to the tape.
Okay, maybe it's not clear right this second, but things that contradict themselves, like this claim, cannot be true. What about the claim there is no truth? Oh, yet another statement that demolishes itself by its own standard. After all, is that claim true? If so, it's wrong. If the claim is not true, then it's true that the statement there is no truth is not true, which means there is truth, which makes the claim false. Moving on to the popular speak your truth. I gotta ask you in all seriousness, is there really your truth and my truth? Truth is what is. It corresponds to reality. It's black and white, either or, fact kind of stuff, right? Tiny Tammy tossed the toy pterodactyl tenderly into the Thames that Tuesday, or she didn't. It's pretty simple, really. Truth is truth, and it doesn't change with a pronoun. Now, you might disagree and throw your hands up in objection, that is, until, of course, you are on the receiving end of a lie, somebody else's truth that contradicts reality. Let's say you deposited $100 into the bank yesterday, but the banker's truth is that you didn't. Your sweet hundo, gone.
Oh no.
Let's say you got every answer on every test right, but the teacher's truth is that you flunked the whole grade. Now you have to repeat it. Your summer, gone. See, I think you get it. And I think you'd be fighting pretty hard for the truth, the thing that corresponds to reality in those specific scenarios, because lies, other people's truths that aren't true, have huge consequences. Relativism is not only flawed, it's unlivable and unsustainable. And let's be honest, nobody wants a relative answer when they ask a real question, especially if it's directions to a gas station when you have to go to the bathroom. But wait a second, what if I say, my favorite candy is M&M's, and you say your favorite candy is Snickers? See, what's true for me is not true for you in that sense, right? Well, actually, wrong. See, I'm saying it's true that my favorite candy is M&M's, and you are saying it's true that your favorite candy is Snickers. We're simply stating the truth about our preferences. Now, you gotta watch out for preferences, beliefs, and opinions trying to sneak their way into truth's exclusive club. After all, you can prefer that you have a blue hat when you only have a white one, but it doesn't change the facts. You can believe the moon is made out of cheese, but it doesn't make it true. And it might be your opinion that 5 plus 5 is actually 13, but you'd be wrong. See, tricky word games don't change the truth. They get you nowhere. As Double Dubs would say, you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. But what?
Okay, welcome back. So, again, it's true for you but not for me. That's what that tape was all about. It's, heaven and hell, truth, what? It's all about the debunked truth. That's our preview for next year. And again, that's the end of the show, folks. I like to close on the good news, and the good news is Jesus is the reason for the season. And, the church I go to, we give out these buttons. We got we keep a box of them at the back of the church. Every year they came out with a different one. We haven't done it in a while because we have so many left over, but yeah, buttons. But, and again, like I was talking about, Merry Christmas, God with us. When Emmanuel, talking about fancy Christian words, Emmanuel just means God with us. Okay, O come, Emmanuel. Those are the songs we sing. So again, we are at the time. Focus on, just know that Jesus loves you. Satan's trying to ruin your life, and as the Serenity Prayer says, you're gonna need the wisdom to know the difference. What's the Serenity Prayer? God, give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We went over that last month, and again, it's just a crazy world. So, good night, Davis. God bless you all, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We will see you in 2021, and we will be talking about debunked. The world debunked. Fake news and the propaganda debunked. It's all about Jesus, not material things. Amen and good night.